Welcome to the Shoot to Grill podcast, and we are back again right here in Roswell, Georgia at Atlanta Grill Company. My name is Jason Bailey, always joined by our magnificent chef, Rashid, with PhillipsBarbecueCo.com.
Too kind.
And the white sunglasses. And always a great guest on Shoot to Grill. This episode, we have Peter Stroud. Oh, I'm sorry. I think I just kicked you, Peter.
Right,
That's how I treat my guests on the show. The longtime guitarist for Sheryl Crow. How are you, Pete?
Great. Thank you. How are you, Jason?
Good. Now, before we get into talking music and everything that is music, we got to talk about what we're going to eat first.
Okay. I'm down with that.
And that's where Sheed comes in.
That's the reason I'm on the show.
We
the best reason.
Exactly.
Sheed, we had some requests from Peter.
Yes.
Like we do for most of the rock stars.
Seems to be a trend here.
Yes, and that is you are a...
We're wussy. We're picky. You know, we have issues.
I understand. It's
You're
fine.
a pescatarian.
Pescatarian.
I am now a pescatarian. I used to be a vegan, but
We're getting you
backed off a
closer and
little bit.
closer back to meat. I'll take it.
Hey, man, love the fish. I couldn't miss out on that. I had to come back to the fish.
Good deal.
So we go to Terry, our meat guy,
Yep.
with AtlantaSteakandSeafood.com, and he rolls up to my driveway in his truck, and he brings us some great what?
Some amazing shrimp, and we've got some really delicious looking sea bass.
Excellent.
So
Sounds
we're
awesome.
we're in for a treat today. And with that, I'm actually going to go ahead and make us some fish tacos. Because why not, right? You've got
It's a perfect day for it.
exactly like if you're looking for a light, refreshing dish on a hot day like this.
Yes.
It's this dish. So I'm actually gonna go ahead and grill up some pineapples. I've got some fresh corn. Going to char that up as well. Make a nice little mojo meets chimichurri pico on top. Toss it all together. Serve it up with I'm actually snagging one of these bad boys today. Some AP mojo from Atlanta Grill Company, or where we're at, where we film everything. So using these guys today, season up the fish, the shrimp. It's going to be a real good dish.
Oh, man, that sounds amazing.
And we're cooking it on the Kamado Joe, which we cook a lot of
Yep.
stuff on. Full disclosure, whatever you cook on, enjoy yourself. Just make sure you get some really good meat or seafood like we do with AtlantaSteakandSeafood.com. By the way, he'll ship it out to you if you want to order from Terry, because you see all the stuff that we've been doing on the different seasons here on Shoot to Grill, and it is top of the line. Great stuff. I mean, Terry's selling this stuff to all like really major restaurants. And so we're cooking on the Kamado Joe, and you have to explain it. Temperature, rack, and with the fish, are you using the soapstone or no?
No, not using the soapstone. I'm actually doing one of my tricks where I oil up the grates really well with some extra virgin olive oil, and I skewer all the shrimp and the sea bass just so I have sort of a handle to sort of manage the food, because fish is very delicate, so I don't want to go tonging it to death and break it apart. So skewering it up right so I can gently lift it, move it around for my hot zones. I'm on the top rack today, and you guys know I love cooking split, my sear, raging hot, and my cooking zone. So I've got that split. I've got one plate in, so only one side is covered with the plate, and I'm at the very, very top rack. So I'm not down there searing intensely. I want to have a little bit of control, because it's shrimp and fish. It'll be done by your second question. So I want to have a little bit of fun with it. Take it care so it doesn't overcook, because when you overcook shrimp, it ends up tasting like bubble gum, extra chewy.
Yeah, you're right. It's exactly what it tastes like, bubble gum.
You don't want that, so trying to make it a good experience.
Heat-wise, what are you doing?
Heat-wise, I've got the KJ throttled up to about 450, 500 right now.
Yeah.
I'm going to burp it. So burpers basically mean I'm just going to pop the top, let that air, all that heat out, bring it back down. So I'd like to throttle it down to 350, 375. That's my cooking range, but it's always easier to go shooting way over it and bring it down than to keep messing, trying to creep up to that temperature level.
Are you seasoned before you put the fish on or during?
I'm actually going to season before. So because of shrimp and sea bass, they grab flavor really quickly. Hit it with a little bit of salt, a little bit of the AP, some of my homemade mojo. Let it sit for a few minutes while I get the pineapples ready to char in the corn. Then while that's done marinating, maybe 2-3 minutes, toss it onto the KJ and go.
Do you know what he's talking about, Peter? Are you following all this?
I am following all of it. I'm learning as I sit here.
Yeah.
I'm taking this home. I'm going to do it this weekend.
All
See, that's
right,
what's
I'm
great,
with it.
because
I'm
like
paying attention.
every one of our guests, a lot of times when we start talking about whatever they do, in your case music, and just good stuff in general, they're sitting there like, no. Let's talk more about how to cook this at my house.
Exactly. Like, what are you?
Exactly. Can we keep this going, Rashid?
I've got a lot of Thanksgiving Day invites.
I'm sure you.
Season so
Well, you know,
far.
another
So I'm
thing,
excited.
we talk about this a lot, and I know you're a grill guy, Pete. But you want to impress your guests. So, like when your guests come over the house, and you've got a green egg at the house, right?
Correct.
Okay,
yes.
so you want to impress them. What's your go-to? Because you're going to probably, just because you eat fish and shrimp, you're going to have guests that are meat eaters.
Yes.
What do you do?
So we'll do steaks. We've done pork loins that just come out amazing.
Nice.
Anything you can imagine.
You
We've done
cook?
Barbecue. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I
So you're the
cook.
chef.
Oh yeah, my wife and I both.
Yeah.
We both dug into it when we got the big green egg. Just the way this oven works. It's the convection type thing. The heat. It's so even.
It's a great way of
Juice
cooking.
stays in. Chicken. We've done full turkeys.
Yeah.
We've
And your
every
guests,
kind of fish.
your guests leave satisfied.
Oh, total.
yeah.
That's
okay.
how it
That's
should
important.
always be.
Yeah, and you're right. It makes it more of a happening.
Yeah. Now, since you probably know a lot of famous people, big thanks to everybody that supports the Shoot to Grill podcast, especially Northside Tool Rental. NorthsideToolRental.com. Make sure you check out all the things that they have that you can rent for the yard, for the construction site, a dingo, a bobcat, you name it. The fine folks at Northside Tool Rental, they got it. NorthsideToolRental.com. Again, thanks for your support, guys.
I wish I had those stories for you of all those guests. I was just making that up.
Oh, man. Dude, I thought you were going to tell me that
I thought we were going to get something juicy or something.
Cheryl came over.
But Cheryl has been over.
Now, have
Cheryl,
you cooked for Cheryl?
Is she a pescatarian too?
Sort of. We did cook. We did grilling, but this was long before the big green egg, But yeah, we did grilling. It was all the usual barbecue. It was chicken. It was burgers and
Did she
all
like
that.
it?
And then I brought in a lot of, nice deli trays and everything. I had the entire band over. I had the band and crew and Cheryl. Oh yeah, it was a blast.
Yes.
We had the entire house set up and
That's a make or break,
ping
man.
pong table out.
Bad grilling for
and you
the boss.
when you have
asking
the
to get
boss
fired.
over, you better have it dialed. Impressions.
So here in
Understand.
Atlanta, Peter is known by not only everyone in the business, but just in general. I mean, you are music legend. You've been around doing it for so long.
So long is the key. I've just been here forever.
But that's something to be said.
Well, you're passionate.
Full-time gig being a guitarist for a pretty big deal is not bad. So I want to know how you met up with Sheryl Crow, because that has been, and we'll get into this a little bit later on, but you've had opportunities, you've actually played with other people, you've turned down opportunities, but you've always been loyal to Sheryl Crow. How did that relationship start?
I first met Cheryl back in '96 when I was with an artist from Seattle, Pete Droge, who was writing on a big hit at the time, "If You Don't Love Me, I'll Kill Myself."
Wow, it's
A
beautiful.
great rocking song, and he's a great singer-songwriter. And Cheryl would take him out on tour. I think I was on the second or third tour that she invited Pete to come out for, and we were out for a month. So I met her then. That was in '96, and '98, towards the end of '98, she was about to put out the Globe Sessions, and she was reforming her group, and I got a call from her management offering me a job, and things had just begun wrapping up with Pete at that time. He was getting off the road for a while, and so I went, yeah. It's been just one thing after another. The thing I found about Cheryl, she would say, all right, I'm going to take a year off. And then a month later or 2 months later, she'd go, all right, I'm getting antsy. And they'd already have some gigs booked. They'd be doing something. And, it's been that way, I can say, for about 20 years. There's always something going on.
So what do you do when she takes a year off?
Well, the
If she
first
takes a
time
year
she
off.
did actually take a year off was when I had the great fortune of landing a tour with Don Henley.
Yeah.
And or I should say an audition first. And I was one of the last guys in. I was the 18th guy in to audition and got the gig and immediately launched with him.
Do you know who else you were up against?
Yeah, I know a handful of them, and I don't know how I got it, but
Well,
I
like
got
who?
it. You know,
Who
I do
else?
know how I got it.
Who else was there?
Oh.
Was it like one big room with a bunch of awesome guitarists, like a waiting
No,
room?
it was over a period of time.
Yeah.
But I will say there was another guitarist to audition after me who I didn't recognize, but he was sitting out there watching us.
Yeah.
And I'm like going, man, you know, it's like, okay, I guess this is how it's done. It was the first and only audition I've ever done.
So do you remember some of the names?
Well, I know the guitarist from Mr. Mister at the time was one of them. I couldn't tell you the rest. So there was, there were guys from L.A. There were a lot of great players from L.A.
Did everyone catch that? 20 years and you've only had one audition?
Yeah.
That's a great gig, huh?
Gosh.
Well, it's like, well, who do you know? You know, and that's how I got with Sheryl. It's like, well, how about that? How about Pete, who played with Pete? You know, let's see if he's available. It's a small, tight-knit community.
Well, I think
else.
one of the most famous guitar stories, and maybe you know this or not, but is the CC DeVille Slash, for Poison.
Yeah.
And Poison was formed before Guns N' Roses was formed, obviously. And when they were auditioning guitarists, Slash auditioned for Poison, but they wanted a platinum blonde.
Yeah.
And CC's sound was a better fit for the band. And then Slash obviously went off and did pretty big things.
He did all right.
He did okay.
But can you imagine if Slash would have gotten that gig? And also
it would have been a different world.
Well, in that day too, especially LA, you hear all these stories from these guys, and throughout my years in radio, I've heard these stories from them as well. As you would just look in the paper. If you see Motley Crue's The Dirt, you're putting out, there was no internet, you're putting it out on the paper, you're like, wanted guitarist for rock band. Right?
Yeah.
And that's how it was, right? For the most part.
Well, I'll tell you, how I got this gig. Part of the reason I got the gig, well, one, because I played it verbatim. And the second reason is because of Barbeque.
Really?
Seriously.
I was about to go tend to the KJ, but I'm going to hang around for this part of it. I'm hang around for this part.
I'm telling you, because I was talking with Don after the audition. And and I said, I'm from North Carolina originally. And North Carolina barbecue is a big thing. And I said, I know you're from Texas. You're into barbecue. He goes, oh, yeah. So we got into that. He goes, oh, But later on, so I got the gig. And later on, like once we got on the road, I would get a call from his assistant that was always out on the road. He'd go, Peter, Don wants you to join us for barbecue. I go, really? And it'd be an off night. And they would find these places, or that they knew. They knew them all. I mean, he's been touring since the 70s, so he has his favorite haunts.
Nice.
And they'd take me with him. And I just remember those guys. My guitar tech was his best childhood friend.
Okay.
And Richard Bowden, funny comedian. He's a great guy. And I'd watch these guys eat mounds of barbecue and just marvel and hear the greatest, funniest stories about the Eagles and whatnot, But that was it. So, I was the guy they'd call out for barbecue, and they told me,
there we go.
Did Don ever look over at you and go, look, Peter, we're going to tell some stories. We don't know you all that well. Have some barbecue on the house, but let's keep these stories at the table.
There was just a look, believe me. It was just that was a given.
So did you get an invite to join the Eagles at any point in time, especially after the passing of Glenn?
No. Well, the opportunity might have been there, I'll put it that way, but Don and Sheryl are really close friends, and he just wouldn't do that. He knew I was playing with her. He knew it was just sort of a period of time. He even graciously called her before he called me to invite me to audition. He called me personally, but he called her first. And she calls me and goes, what are you doing chasing down this Henley gig? Hey, I was like, hey, a friend of mine, put my name in the bag, and believe me, if you're busy, I'm with you.
So she's really protective of you.
Oh, I think she was just sort of needling a little bit and just checking me out. It was after my first year with her. She was wondering if I was about to bail on her.
Does she like to keep things as is, not a lot of change?
Well, yeah. I mean, as long as it's working right. And in that case, she just said, okay, great. Well, I will put in a good word for you. And she did. You
That's
know,
good.
so I think she knew as long as I was there for her, and I think, well, put it this way, yeah, the band that I ended up playing a part of, that band for the most part held together for 11, 12 years. And then she did change up for one album for 100 Miles from Memphis, I think was the name of the album, and she put together a band with Doyle Bramhall, and they toured with that. And during that time, I went off and did another tour. I toured with Sarah McLachlan for that year.
Oh, nice.
And then after that, this was at the end of 2011, going into 2012, she thought she could put the previous band back together. I already started booking dates, and they were all gone. But I was free, so I put together another band for her, and I said, I've got the band for you. And so I helped her put this band together in 2012.
When you toured with Sarah
and it's been
McLachlan,
the same band.
when you toured with Sarah McLachlan, did you have to play that damn sad dog song?
I had to play it.
Did you get sad?
gosh.
I got sad.
I'm getting sad
I'm
just
telling you.
listening to you tell
on
me
every
this.
I got sad.
Oh, my
it's
God.
It's a beautiful song.
Because all
It
you
is.
hear,
Arms of the Angel.
but you just see sad dogs in a cage.
You do.
That or sad faces or sad animals. I just have to put it on mute every time. Like
Oh,
I don't.
man.
I'm not emotionally ready for this.
Yeah, that's and every night.
Oh my god.
Man, I can
Did
tell
she
you,
pay you extra for
She
that?
told me the story on that. Yeah, right.
The story behind the song?
Yeah, about
Or how she got hooked
that
up with the
song
dogs.
landed on the commercial.
Oh, yeah, tell me.
Well, she was good friends with one of the higher ups with the ASPCA, and who asked her if she would. I think they wanted to use that particular song. She just said, "Oh yeah, sure, that'd be great. I would love to support you guys," and that was it.
I wonder if she knew that it would be like the song for every sad memory related to a pet ever.
And I forget the figure. She said it raised millions of dollars after that.
She's not collecting a dime, though, huh? She just gave it to him.
She was thrilled.
Yeah.
She didn't collect a dime.
You wonder what their backup song was. Because, there's always, in that meeting room, there's going to be a backup song, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be somebody that's going, all right, well, if Sarah doesn't say yes, we're going to have to go to, Sounds of Silence. Or,
song. Oh,
It was
yeah,
Who Let the
songs.
Dogs Out. I think.
Who
was
Let the
backup.
Dogs Out.
That was a follow
We're
up.
going to do a little bit more upbeat.
Yeah, we could take that in any direction. I think.
All right, Sheet, I'm assuming it's going over. We're going to start up the fish tacos and the shrimp. So with all the years out on the road with both Don Henley and, of course, your stay of Sheryl Crow, some of the best places that you've played that you've really enjoyed?
That's easy. My favorite venue is Red Rocks
Yeah.
outside of
Yeah.
Denver.
That's
That
cool.
place is just magical.
Yeah.
Not only is the view magical, the interaction with the fans, because they're literally right there. Have you been to shows there?
I have. I've been there once.
The stage is almost level with the first or second row.
Right, yeah.
So you're just looking up at everybody. It's just like woohoo, having the greatest time.
And
It
you can
is
feel
spiritual.
nothing's around you.
Oh, you can
just feel it.
You're enclosed in these walls, in these canyon walls. So that's number one. Number two in the U.S. is the Gorge,
Where's
which
that?
is in Washington State.
Yeah.
It's in the town of George,
Really?
Washington.
Wow, got
It's
it.
in the middle of nowhere, but it's the back of the stage overlooks the Columbia River.
Wow.
It's just gorgeous. So that was another favorite spot. And from there, man, it just goes on. We've played so many. We just played at the Newport Folk Festival
Yeah.
a couple of weekends ago. At Fort Adams, just being at the Folk Festival, that's historic. That was
Yeah.
amazing. And the playing out, looking out over the bay. I mean, there's so many different things. Over in Europe, we played at Wembley Stadium
Wow.
recently with the Eagles. And,
Really?
I mean, that's
How's that?
scenic. It's just, it was one of those things where we had played a lot of stadiums. It was an amazing tour. We toured with Phil Collins prior to that, playing stadiums. in
What year
Europe.
is this?
This is just this past summer.
Oh,
This is
okay.
just in
And he has
June.
his son playing drums
And
for
he has
him,
his
right?
son playing drums.
Yeah, that's
Yes,
cool.
He was 18 or 19.
He's
something
really
like-
good.
He killed it.
Really good.
So we played stadiums with him, and it was great. And then the last stadium gig was with the Eagles. And, you get, anything's relative. You get used to whatever you're doing. And so I was like playing, and I went, wait a minute. We're at Wembley effing Stadium. Wait a minute. Just look up and just take it in, because how many times are you going to get to do this? Which actually was my second time, but first time was with the Rolling Stones,
Where you were
where we opened for the Rolling Stones. Cheryl opened for the Stones.
Wow, really?
At Wembley Stadium, yeah.
What year is that?
That was in 99, and that was the original Wembley Stadium.
Wow.
So it was the second time, so to speak, as Wembley. But I tell you, man, those kind of things are, for us as a musician, are priceless.
That's cool that you still cherish the
my
memory
God.
after all that. And, with the success of Bohemian Rhapsody, just recently, the story of Queen, and then of course you see Wembley Stadium at the end with Live Aid, and for those of us that lived that live, so to speak, where it was just unheard of that you were having this simulcast concert in Philadelphia and at Wembley. But to be on that same stage where all those acts performed is pretty amazing. And it's funny, if you go down that set list, some of those bands, a lot of those bands, still touring.
Yes.
And they're, from a radio guy, you always forget to ask them about some of these shows that they were a part of with acts like a Queen. I mean, some of these guys that have left us, like Freddie Mercury, just to have any type of experience with these types of artists, to know that you have those stories, like you gotta tell people about that stuff, right?
Oh, man. You consider the magnitude of that lineup for Live Aid. And now that they're rebroadcasting and showing, it's incredible. And, believe me, I was thinking about that when we played the original Wembley, because that event and the Queen footage, which at the time wasn't as accessible, obviously, as it is now.
Yeah. What's the best lineup to you, most exciting? And I don't want you to make it sound like all the other ones sucked, but as far as the lineup that you, whether it was with Sheryl Crow or Don Henley, that you were a part of festival-wise, for your own, kind of marking out for some of these bands where you got to go and meet and hang out with people that you might not have known before?
Well, definitely the Rolling Stones is at the top of the list. There's two events, and they all happened in the first year. And believe me, there's been dozens since. And I was thinking today that I've never really written anything down. I need to, because there's been over 20 years, so many incredible experiences with people. The Rolling Stones, and this is with Cheryl. Prior to that, with Pete Droge, we toured for 2 months with Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers.
Wow, that's great.
And then after that, we toured with Neil Young and Crazy Horse all the way across Canada.
Wow.
And then that leads into me touring with Cheryl, and we do the dates with the Rolling Stones, and then she did her own show. She was invited to put on her own show in Central Park as Sheryl Crow and Friends, and she invited Keith Richards, Stevie Nicks, Sarah McLachlan, the Dixie Chicks, a blank of Pretenders, Chrissy Hynde.
Yeah.
It was one, and Eric Clapton.
Wow.
One right after the other coming on stage. And Eric Clapton comes off stage. I'm a little bit dizzy from just playing White Room with Eric Clapton and Little Wing.
Yeah.
And then here comes Keith Richards, and we play Happy and Sweet Little Rock and Roller. And on Sweet Little Rock and Roller, he gets right in my face. We're trading off solos, and he's getting right in my face, and he's going, "Go, man, go man." And I'm sitting there backing up going, I hope somebody's getting a picture of this. And then sure enough, 2 years later at Christmas time, Cheryl sends me a portrait-sized photo of that moment.
Phenomenal.
Where a pro photographer had caught it.
And where's that picture now?
It's on the wall at home.
I would hope so.
It
yeah.
is,
Do you have a
man.
lot of interaction with these guys outside of being on stage?
Oh, yeah. Those guys were like the Stones. They were great. They were so cordial. Yeah, they're all, it's just everybody's pretty, it's pretty rare to find anybody that is sort of, off.
Probably more back in the day than now.
Yeah, and, and that's usually a personality thing, or they're shy, whatever. But for the most part, everybody is pretty either wide open or cordial. Petty was really great. Mike Campbell, I've become buds with over the years.
Yeah.
Neil Young, all of them. Clapton.
What about
Clapton
the
would
guys?
Go, hello, Peter.
What about
Peter
the,
Frampton. Oh, he's a good bud now.
What about the guys that are fans of yours, like that? I mean, you're telling these great stories of people that, you're. Oh my God, it's Keith Richards and all this stuff. But what about the guys that you've been out on the road with that have come up and go, it's Peter Stroud. Oh my God.
Man. I really appreciate it. Sometimes I go, wow, it's just smoke and mirrors. Maybe it's just from being out there, and I just otherwise just think.
But it happens.
I'm humbled. Yeah, it does. It happens from time to time, and I think I've just been out there for so long. I really appreciate the fact that, perhaps I inspire somebody to play or play a certain way or whatever, but,
What about some of the younger bands? Do they... that have been doing it, haven't been doing it as long as you, and do you ever get a chance to interact with them or meet up through a festival? And who comes up?
And
to
then
you?
of course having bands that are open for us. Well, there's one of the bands that I befriended early on was Switchfoot.
Yeah.
Those guys, and have become really good friends.
Great guys.
With
Very
those
talented.
guys over the years. Yeah, back in their early days, we became pals where they opened a show for us.
Yeah.
And a band called The Shelters that are still out there, where they were produced and sort of taken under wing by Tom Petty, and they knew who I was, and because we're all in the same circles, and a lot of it even stemmed from the days with Pete Droge, and again, it's a small, tight-knit kind of community.
I always call the music business ancestral.
It is.
Where if somebody needs a guitarist, they'll call you up. Hey, Peter, we need a guitarist. Come out and, for a couple of weeks. And it amazes me, from a guy that's got zero music ability, how you learn all these songs. You're just talking about going up there and doing White Room with Clapton. I mean, going, back before Clapton was Clapton. And, and it's like, did you know that before? Did you have to learn it that day, or?
For that event, we had 5 days of rehearsal prior to, and then so we worked up that stuff. We wanted to play it right, obviously, and for all these guests, and they'd come in and rehearse with us as well. So other times it can be on the spur of the moment. We had to work up when I was with Don. One of the last shows I did with him was at Staples Center, and Timothy Schmidt and Glenn Fry came up to play, and so we played Peaceful Easy Feeling, and I can't tell you why, and literally worked them up that day at soundcheck.
What about something that was thrown at you on the spot, or maybe you didn't know how to play?
Oh man, you just
does that happen?
Oh yeah.
Tell me a song that you did
part.
not know how to play, and you were put on the spot, and how did you get yourself out of it?
You
just
know
turn
what?
off your equipment?
You have some leeway. You just go for it. You just, after a while, music, there's a certain blueprint that you sort of are able to follow. There's only so many notes, in other words. There's only so many guitar chords. So after a while, you can sort of wing it. What would have been the most difficult? Oh, my goodness.
I could imagine you're up on that stage.
There's been so many.
Hey, man, play blah. And you're like, dude, I don't know how to play blah.
I tell you, when you hear it enough, and like I said, you can, just from hearing it, you generally know where you need to go. Now, obviously, you want to be able to have a chance to learn it. But you can do it.
Are there guitarists like yourself that aspire to play with lead singers or bands, like lead singers would want to collaborate with guitarists or other singers? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Is there somebody that you'd want to play with other than Sheryl Crow? Maybe a different genre of music?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's absolutely, because, music is exploration. I love playing with Sheryl, and that's the thing I like about her. She goes in so many different directions. I call her a chameleon.
Well, life is a winding road,
styles.
correct? Isn't that the line? Yeah.
You pegged it perfectly. Yeah. I would have liked to have played with Chris Cornell.
Yeah.
I really.
Is that your style? That grunge rock?
I sort of, I'm a kid from the late 70s. I grew up in all the 70s stuff. In fact, my ultimate band to have played with as a kid would have been Rod Stewart and Faces.
Really?
Yeah, that was, to me, was the ultimate rock and roll band.
Really?
I played with other folks. Like I played with Satellite some in the earlier days just for the fun of it, or just if they needed a fill-in guitarist. Playing with Collective Soul, playing with Ed. That was a thrill to be able to, to record with them on their latest record, and to occasionally I'll do an acoustic show with Ed or with the guys, and that's fun.
And we've had Will on the podcast. And,
have you?
Yeah, and just through the business, known those guys for quite some time, and that's incestual too. And their latest album, which, like you just said, that you're on, was that kind of one of those? Ed just says, "Hey, buddy, you want to play on this, or I need your sound to be on this."
It was just Ed saying, "Hey, man, you want to? We're at the house recording. Want to come up? Just come up and play with us."
That's the good stuff, man. That's what I need, man. I need somebody to say, "Bailey, just come out here and go, woo!" Just so I can say I'm on a record, because that's badass to say they're on a record.
That's about what I did equivalent. I had a slide, because you got a lot of leeway with the slide. You can make mistakes with the slide, and it just sounds like you intended to do it.
Yeah.
So I was just going to.
So being in the business, there's also the showmanship part of it, and some people have it and some people don't. That's what separates the great lead singers like a Mick Jagger from the not so great lead singers. Vocally, they might be great. Their albums might be great, but on stage, they're not the showman.
Yeah.
Same goes for a guitarist. Yeah. You've got to have those rock moves. So early in your career, when you start to get up that totem pole, did you realize, hey, I got to figure this out, the look and what I do on stage? And if so, who helped you?
I consider myself, again, fortunate to be from the 70s, where my formative years in music were 70s and dipping back into the 60s too. It was rock and roll. You had Led Zeppelin, you had The Who. It was posers. Yeah. But they were authentic. They were the real deal.
Right.
Everybody was cool. And in some ways, I consider the 80s, I hope I'm not offending anybody here, as the dark ages. Because to me, it got into the whole hair and all the stuff.
It's funny, everybody that's so pro 70s. See, I was never a big 70s music fan.
Yeah.
But I love me the 80s, and I really love me the 90s. The 80s hates the 90s.
Really?
Yeah, God. Because they think.
And I like the 90s.
Oh, that's great. Because I think the 90s was a great decade of music.
Yeah, it was great. To me, it was the coming back of rock, and just like attitude. And,
like grunge.
Yeah, grunge. Yeah, absolutely. Grunge was part of that. Now, there's still, I've come to discover a lot of bands in the 80s that were great. I'm a big XTC fan, and they started in the 80s. And, no, they actually started in the late 70s, but, were so prolific throughout the 80s and into the early 90s. So, but
what was the first band in the 80s that you saw that you're like, oh, Jesus, Mary and Joseph, this is going to be a bad run right here?
It was the songs I heard on the radio and saw on MTV. Don't you want me, baby?
Okay. So it wasn't even the glam rock. It was more of the kind of new wavy stuff.
Yeah, and it just was like, it just seemed so, I don't know. It was just, and a lot of it had to do with the recording techniques, big reverb drums, and it just sounded so synthetic. I don't know. Sorry, y'all.
No, that's fine. I love the honesty. I'm curious. That's great. I love hearing that stuff.
That's my favorite period of, but I was a big Prince fan, as everybody was. He was great. I mean, there's always great artists from that period. But, after coming out of the 70s, and, I mean, people would probably scoff at, there was a period where everybody hated prog rock, and prog rock was a big part of the 70s, and I was way into it.
Yeah.
And now it's having sort of a renaissance.
Sure,
again. Yeah. Everybody's got their favorite, and my impressionable period was then, the 70s, just like somebody else who's really pissed at me right now, the 80s were their impressionable period.
Well, 80s was, as much as I was a fan of the glam rock stuff, Poison, Crew, even like some of the quote unquote baby bands like Kicks and
just like, and they were good. I liked Kicks,
Firehouse, and Bad English.
Yeah, and I had nothing against any of those bands. I thought they were really good too.
But that was a coming of age days for me.
They were rock.
Right.
They were still rock.
But that's what I'm saying. The stuff that you're talking about was that early '80s, that new wave alt rock. It kind of went where you had that prog rock, the Thompson Twinsy type of stuff, morphed into an NXS, then morphed into the dirt rock.
I should clarify. I mean, I appreciated Guns N' Roses. I didn't buy albums by all these guys, but I really liked them, and I'd go see them. Cinderella, big Van Halen fan, obviously, but that stemmed from the 70s.
Right, yeah.
Kicks. Did you mention them? They were great. They were a cool band.
Was the album Blow My Fuse? I think so. Steelheart. That stuff was great.
I saw those guys. I saw Kicks play at Charlie Magruder's. Did you ever hear of that place?
I've heard of the place, yeah.
Yeah, that was on Powers Ferry Road. That was the big hair rock club in Atlanta. And everybody, you came in dialed with your hair and the outfit.
Had a lot of flair.
That was it. Yeah, and all the cover bands playing, all that stuff, would play there. And then they'd get some name acts in there, and that's where I saw Kicks, and they killed it.
Go back to the Chris Cornell thing. You had said that if there was somebody that you'd want to play with, Chris Cornell would have been one of them. Obviously deceased now, but there's no argument that he will go down as one of the best vocalists in rock history.
Absolutely.
Just his voice was ridiculous. Whether you liked him from the Soundgarden days, the Audio Slave days, or whatnot, but why Chris Cornell? Just because of his voice? Did you know him? Did you meet him?
No, I never had the opportunity to meet him. But I was turned on to Soundgarden early on, so I was a fan already. And then, like the early Soundgarden records, and then Black Hole Sun, to me, is one of the best songs of all time.
Yeah.
And that was actually mixed by Brendan O'Brien, who's an Atlanta a producer who's originally from Atlanta.
Really? And
a buddy too,
wow.
A close friend. But so there were connections. We had connections, and the Pearl Jam guys, I've gotten to know those guys really well, and they're all, they're all one big family. Pete Roche too. They're all in the whole Seattle thing. But Chris, as a singer, like you say, he embodies that persona of attitude, rock and roll. He's not trying. He didn't have to try. He was it.
Yeah.
And Peter Frampton played here the other night, and I was at the show, and he plays an instrumental version of Black Hole Sun.
Oh yeah.
Closed it. And of course, he was speaking and dedicated to Chris and his family, and then they showed a picture of him, and it was really, really touching. I mean, that's an unfortunate loss, especially when you consider the situation.
Yeah, and a lot of people will play a Cornell song, and even his solo stuff. I always liked his solo stuff, but they won't attempt to sing it because it's it's tough.
Well, that's it. I mean, only Chris could sing it. Yeah, I've heard some people that have done well pulling it off, but yeah, he was one of those guys. Just like Freddie Mercury was one of those guys.
Right, yeah.
But
they got that American Idol guy, that Adam Lambert, who does a pretty decent job.
Yeah, he does
He's
really
got the
well.
Move and everything,
Yeah, and there's some, I wish I could remember their name. There's a new band out. The guy sounds just like Freddie Mercury.
Oh, really?
Rock band, yeah. I'll
you don't want that. You don't want the exact same thing.
No,
You're kind of like AC/DC. They didn't go and try to find another Brian Johnson. They're like, you know what? We're going to get Axl Rose.
Yeah.
And do that. So do you see, for the rest of your days, always touring with Sheryl Crow? Or do you ever want to retire?
I put it this way. As long as retirement, I just don't see retirement. For whatever reason, I'm sure I will at some point, but I think that's one of the fortunes of playing music. Why would you want to quit playing music? You know, maybe I might not want to travel as much, but I'm doing what I love. I play music. So what is retiring? It's not like you're retiring from a job where you put in 25 years or 30 years and you have a pension and you were pushing pencils all day. No, it's nothing like that.
You see these guys in the music business that you would just think, well, they're on tour with such and such, or and they're making all kinds of money, and then the next thing you know, you're reading that they're broke. Because there is no union set up for musicians with 401ks and all that stuff, right? You got to do that all on your own.
Yeah, you got to do it on your own.
Yeah,
you have to do that.
Easy to go broke, though, huh?
It can be, absolutely, especially if you get on the wrong side of the IRS.
They start taking your money.
And as far as Sheryl, as long as she wants me, I'm around. It's like I said, she's a chameleon. She does so many different things, and she definitely is an explorer. She just, hey, let's do this. Hey, let's do that. She doesn't let the dust settle on her for a second. And so there's always something around the corner. And, I'm always looking at band guys, well, did we expect this? No.
Yeah.
You just never know what's around the corner.
Does she include you with any of the songwriting process, or is that all her?
She is always welcome to it. And I co-wrote a song that was on one of the previous records with her, and I can send her stuff anytime I want. She has found, though, her main songwriter has been with her for 22 years, I would guess, and that's Jeff Trott, who I have a lot of coincidence with, because when he started working with Sheryl, he had been playing with Pete Droge. This shows you how incestuous it is.
Yeah.
Jeff Trott was playing guitar with Pete Droge. He essentially left, sort of indirectly, directly, and ended up with Sheryl writing for the second record. So I replaced him in Pete Droge's band. When he decided he didn't want to be on the road for various reasons after the first crazy tour of her second record success, that's when I got the call.
Wow.
So I replaced him again, and so now we're best friends. Our birthdays are 2 days apart. We're the same age. We've got this sort of affinity with each other.
Have you ever been fired from a gig?
No.
Wow, look at you.
You
better hope when you're done talking to us, you don't go in and Sheryl goes, you know what, Peter, we got to talk, man. Things are, do you treat her like a boss? Or
I
like
heard
a friend?
that interview. I
heard you didn't like 80s music.
Yeah. It's
do you treat her like a boss, or is it more of like a friend?
It's, you know how it is. It's a little of both. We're definitely friends. How could we not be after this long? But I also know she's my boss, and you want her. You're trying to give her the ability to be the artist that she is. So there's that element of it. But no, we are really close friends too. Absolutely, I couldn't imagine.
So you were around
still
during
playing together, and she'd want me around.
You're around during the Kid Rock days, like when she did Picture, right?
Yeah,
Picture. Yeah, great song.
Yeah,
great album.
Yeah,
and they were really good singing duo together, I thought.
Oh yeah.
I thought that was awesome. Like I'm more.
That was another fluke that's on Picture, where they just got together and wrote. And I remember talking to her after she got home, and she said, "Yeah, we wrote a few songs. I don't know what we'll do with them, but we wrote them."
Really?
And then next thing you know, Picture comes out.
Yeah, that was huge. That was great, because that was like almost a transition for Kid Rock to get out of that rap rock world. That new metal pop over the two, where he was kind of lumped in with the Limp Bizkits and the PODs and the Papa Roaches. And those bands, either it was sink or swim. You had to find a way to get out of a genre that people were starting to laugh at. Limp Bizkit was unfortunately left behind, because I actually like Limp Bizkit, and there's a lot of talent in that band. Papa Roach, they changed their genre, and they went more hooky, How to Get Away with Murder, to go to the top 40 world.
Right.
POD was kind of left behind. Kid Rock was like, look, I'm a Seeger fan.
Yeah.
What you guys just, even though I came from that side of the tracks, and I'm, into all the urban stuff and DJing all these parties, dude, I'm a Seeger fan. Let me do my bluesy type of stuff. I loved it. That Rock and Roll Jesus album, I think, is phenomenal.
Yeah, well, he is an artist that is not afraid. Well, first, he ignores what anybody else thinks.
Yeah.
And, Sheryl does too. I mean, they're artists that are not afraid to go back to their roots. They go, fuck everything else. All right, this is what got me into playing.
Yeah.
And taking it from there. So,
did Sheryl ever have that, and I'm assuming you know this, like throughout the span of her albums. You know, her obviously huge success came in the late '90s, right? You know, with her songs, the radio songs, and whatnot.
Well, about mid '90s. Second record was when it really blew up.
Did she ever come into you guys and say, "Hey, look, this next album, I can't do this shit anymore. I got to do it my way. I got songs that I want to do. I'm not listening to these people. I'm doing it my way."
I tell you, for the most part, I'm sure she felt a lot of pressure all through the days of the big labels and everything. She had to. They had expectations of her. Sound like your last record or this or that. But she would entertain it. But I feel like she would always. Sometimes it would stretch the recording process out for her because by the time it was said and done, she ended up putting something out that she wanted to put out.
Right.
But it would be that exploration period where it would be like, try this. A producer or a record company head would tell her, try this,
Because she was a small town girl that came out to L.A. I mean, she's like literally the song.
She is. She is.
Hey, she remember? I don't like tomatoes. I see you putting tomatoes on stuff over there.
I
hate those tomatoes.
Awesome.
But she was like literally that song. She's small town girl, goes to L.A., tries to make it, and then pops.
Ends up with Michael Jackson. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Ends up with
crazy.
Michael Jackson. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then how soon after she gets to L.A. did you join up with her? Because you've been with her for most of her career.
Yes. Well, let's see. She. I'm not sure exactly when she went to L.A. I think it was around '89 or so, something like that, and maybe it must a little. Whenever the big tour, she was out there for a year or so prior to that.
Yeah.
The Michael Jackson tour, and then I met her in '95. And then she was still out, obviously in L.A. She lived in L.A. up till maybe about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Something like that when she moved to Nashville area.
Yeah. And now she's still out in L.A.?
No, she's in Nashville now.
She's in Nashville.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of the artists do. Like, L.A. used to be the place. I'm in Nashville now. I can have a yard.
Yeah.
I don't have, people on top of me. I can have some privacy, but yet it's now become
when she
the
adopted
Mecca.
her kids, she goes, I want my kids to grow up somewhere besides L.A. I have a feeling that was the major part of it.
Yeah. That's
and
great.
then also there was a great, thriving, inspiring music business in Nashville.
Yeah.
So.
The meats on the Shoot to Grill podcast are amazing thanks to Terry and Atlanta Steaks and Seafood.com. You got to have good meat. You got to grill it up. You got to have the best in the business. That's what Terry has. So wherever you're at, he can ship it to you or drop it off. Atlanta Steaks and Seafood.com. Thanks, Terry.
Back then, it recorded with Stevie Nicks early on, but that was with Sheryl producing. That was one of the first things I did with Sheryl.
How cool was that?
The first thing. That was amazing.
Yeah. Because you were a fan.
Yeah, I was a fan. Oh, my gosh. I mean, to
Are you nervous?
hang out with her? Yeah, a little bit. But Stevie was so welcoming and so chill and embracing.
I heard she's mean. Is she mean? No?
You heard from a bad source. Oh, look at that.
You heard from a bad source. I don't know. I just
Maybe
look at
there
that.
might have been a day.
Wow.
Wow, look at that.
That is.
Holy smokes, Rashid.
It's sea bass, right? That's what we got from Terry?
Sea bass and some shrimp.
God almighty, dude. That is.
Sea bass is a really good meaty fish.
Oh, I love me some sea bass, man. You know who's got
Man.
good sea bass here locally is Rumi's.
Rumi's?
Kitchen.
Oh, really?
The restaurant, yeah.
All right.
All right, you ready for this?
I am ready.
All right, here we
Jumping
go.
in. Look at this. Sea bass with shrimp.
If you are going to ease your way back into meat, man, sea bass is a good way to do it. It's so meaty and thick.
He's not going back to meat. He's
I
happy.
gotta try. I gotta try.
I'm just saying, I never say never.
Oh, my God.
Exactly right.
Right now, I'm loving the fish.
Wow. Is that not amazing?
That is awesome.
Wow.
That really is great.
So, one thing, Sheet, I don't know if you mentioned this at the beginning of the show, but you put skewers not only through the shrimp, but you also did it through the fish.
Yep.
Now, I cooked fish not that long ago on the KJ at the house, and I used the soapstone, and it came out okay. But somebody told me to do the skewers. I was afraid it was going to pull the shrimp apart. I mean, the fish apart. Can you just do that with sea bass? We can't do it like salmon or tilapia.
It just depends. I was with someone who told you to use the skewers.
Oh yeah.
But
Thank you.
no worries. I dig the skewers because, as you guys will see on the cook cam, the grill cam, I'm handling everything. I'm not using like tongs because you got to be a little forceful with tongs. You don't want to shred them. If you're doing tongs with salmon, you're probably going to rip it off.
And you can flip it, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm just easily flipping. I'm able to control it right into the meatiest portion of it, and I'm able to move it around a lot better. I just like using the skewers.
And you can do that with any fish.
Just about. Except tilapia. Tilapia I found is extremely soft, and it's not as meaty, and it'll just break. But I've done it with salmon. I've done it with red snapper, yellowtail. I've done it with everything.
Wow.
And is that because the fish has more of a durability before it's cooked, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
And then as it cooks, it plumps and swells over, really gripping onto the skewers, and you're able to go to town on it.
I got to tell you,
I've never tried that.
there's one thing to grill something, but when to grill it like you grill it, like especially this. I mean, you think shrimp easy, fish fairly easy, but man, there is an art form to this. God, I wish I knew what it was. And I hosted
I know.
grilling.
Well, that's
podcast.
why
That's what you keep
we
bringing me
have
back.
Rashid here, man. This is amazing.
I appreciate that.
And then you got the grilled corn. And I don't like tomatoes, but Peter's got the what was that, the pico?
Yeah, pico, which is
the
great.
chimichurri
I
pico
love
with
it.
some charred pineapple tossed in there.
Wow, that's amazing. All right, look, we're gonna eat our food. We're gonna say goodbye to Peter. Thank you, brother, for coming on.
Man,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you for having me.
It was
Rashid, awesome.
it was awesome to have you
Jason.
on. I know we've been talking for a very long time after we met at.
Yeah.
That punchline.
I know.
months
We've
ago,
been
right?
trying to get together for a while now. We
It was
met at the
actually
Punchline, that's right.
Ian Bagg,
Yeah.
who
Hey, Ian.
was on season. Yeah, hey, Ian.
Hey.
Who's on season 2 of Shoot to Grill. That's where we first met, and I was like, "Oh, we got to get Peter on. I want to hear all these stories about Sheryl Crow and Don Henley." And
Well, sorry they might not have been as juicy, but
no, I'm not a juicy. I'm not
They
a
were
juicy.
good.
I'm not a dirt getter. I like to live vicariously
Yeah.
through you because I'm such a fan of music. And if you're watching, you're not only a fan of grilling, but you're a fan of music. And I don't think a lot of these stories from artists like yourself get out as much as they should because A, the people that are asking the questions a lot of times are just looking for the dirt,
Right.
which sucks. And B, a lot of times the artists are humble and they don't want to seem like they're bragging. But in order for these stories to be told and stand the test of time,
Yeah.
they've got to get out there.
Yeah.
You're going to find them in the internet age. Man, 100 years from now, they'll find a file of it somewhere.
Yeah,
so the
yeah.
stories that you were just telling us were, man, look at Clapton playing White Room. Dude, looking at Keith Richards on stage playing Wembley Stadium, you marking out, knowing Queen was there years prior. I mean, that's the good stuff, man. That's the stuff that the rest of us are like, dude, that's badass. So thank you for sharing those stories.
certainly. Yeah, anytime, man. Well, thank you for having me. This is awesome.
Yeah,
Thanks
and
very
we'll have
much.
you
Thank
back.
you.
All right.
If you're not
I'll
on the
come back
road with
anytime.
Sheryl, maybe you and Sheryl. What does Sheryl like to eat? Is she
Is she a pescatarian too?
Yes. She's a little more wide range still right now, but she's a very healthy eater.
okay?
She's-
You want to take
yeah,
a picture of this and text this to
I
Sheryl
will.
Crow?
I'll say,
And
Sheryl,
say-
you got to join me on this.
Yeah, next time you're in Atlanta,
Next time we're here.
I got a guy. He'll cook you whatever you want.
we got a
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Get
cool.
Rashid, and she'll go, would Rashid want to come on the road with us?
Oh, this is not the first
yeah.
time he's been offered this from people.
yeah.
I know. He gets to every guest
And
asks
then
him.
Jason would be like, what are you doing, man?
I'm telling Jason
You're
to be nice
dissing
to me. I got
man."
options.
He's got a lot of them. I think what was it, Kyle from Hell Yeah, that
Yeah,
was
yeah.
on. He was like, "Hey man, we're getting ready to go out on tour. Well, you wanna come out and go?
I'll
be
put
a
my
cook?"
smoker
I bet.
behind the bus and we can do
Man,
it.
it's going to be that one guy. You're going to have that one guest on. He said, Rashid, you're mine. Come on, man. We're going out on the road.
So we'll post the recipe for the fish and shrimp tacos up on the shootthegrillpodcast.com like we always do. You got the grill cam, which you're watching She do his thing on the Kamado Joe. His website is Phillips1L barbecueco.com. And then, of course, we're here at Atlanta Grill Company in Roswell, Georgia, and they'll ship you anything. So just go to their website, whether it's a Kamado Joe, whether it's, some of the pellet stuff, the Napoleons. They've got great seasonings in there. They've got, apron. I mean, Yeti stuff. So, they've been really good to us. And then Terry Smith with AtlantaSteakandSeafood.com is where we get this stuff, and it's high quality. You got anything you want to promote? You got a website? You doing anything?
Show
Sheryl Crow, for her personally, I haven't had the chance to really work on anything other than I have a band. I do have an EP out, but it's it's been out for a while. A band called Big Hat, and you can find that at bighatband.com. Sheryl has a new album coming out at the end of the month called Threads.
Really?
That's
Yeah, sweet.
and it is a record with some amazing guest artists. A lot of the folks that I've just mentioned, and some other folks. So yeah, that's what we're staying busy promoting.
All right, Sheryl, and you guys are going to go out on tour.
We've been out all for the summer, and we're going out again in September.
Never stop touring.
Never stop.
More or less.
Oh, that's right, because
We never stop.
that's why we get a fly. That's why we had a problem meeting up, because I think you were texting me. You were like in Schwiznik, Germany, or some crazy shit like that. And I was like, "Where are you?" I'm in Schwiznik, Germany. I don't even know if it exists. I was like, "That's awesome." I bet you're texting me in the middle of the stage too. That's so cool. So, and thanks to all of our sponsors. Thank you so much.
Appreciate you.
Thanks for the support. Like, share, download. Very important, because we've got some really good opportunities with this project, and we can't do it without your support. So thank you very much. And until next time, bye.